If you have an unquenchable thirst to crush your bucket list, relentlessly pursue your dreams, and live life on your own terms, then turn up the volume and tune in. You're now listening to Zeph and Moses Blacksburg on the Year of Purpose podcast.
Zeph and Blacksburg here with another round of the Year of Purpose podcast, and today I'm joined by Ronsley Vaz. Now, Ronsley is an entrepreneur specializing in creating businesses that connect people and ideas in new and innovative ways. He is the host of Australia's #1 food podcast, Bond Appetit, that focuses on two main areas, uniting entrepreneurs through food and fixing their relationships with food. He also is the creator of the first podcasting summit in the Southern Hemisphere called Podcast Revolution. He's been cooking for over 19 years and has started and run his own fresh food restaurant specializing in uniquely flavored food, and also worked in a big kitchen as part of a brigade of chefs. Ronsley has a master's degree in software engineering and an MBA in psychology and leadership, with massive experience in software quality systems and leading global teams. He is a software technical expert, a personal chef, and a serial idea creator, and today he's joining us all the way from the other hemisphere. Ronsley, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was telling you, before we jumped on this recording, it's cool to talk to somebody who is a day ahead of me. So you're kind of time traveling right now.
Pretty much. And is it weird to listen to the accent as well? Like, it's a totally different accent to what you guys normally hear. Is it still English?
Yeah, it's way different, but I can understand you for now. So we'll see how it goes when we keep talking.
Cool, man.
Cool. So you have an MBA and you're a chef. Like, how do you go from tech guy to cooking food? Like, where does that even begin?
Well, it begins with chopping an onion, to be honest. Yeah. See, I think we're kind of blessed in the current age to sort of do whatever we feel like doing, and sometimes it's not in any particular field. When you feel like doing something entirely different, we can just go out and do exactly what tickles our fancy, I suppose. So that's exactly what I did. I did everything from financial advising, which was definitely not the space for me to play in, but everything from that to restaurants and food and digital media, corporate. So I've tried it all. Not tried it all. Well, I used to have a porn. No, I was not in porn. But it's a good feeling to try and do whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah. Where were you? Let's just say 5 years ago to compared to what's going on right now.
Yeah, great question. 5 years ago, this is really funny. I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur, and he, sort of looking at him and seeing where he came from and what he was doing, instilled the entrepreneurial spirit in me. But I didn't think I had it. I always thought I wanted a 9-to-5 job, and that's really what I did until the company I was working for paid for an MBA, and I went and did my MBA and saw the world differently. I saw opportunities in places that I walked past the same road before, but there were more opportunities in the same space. So it was a bit weird to look at the world differently. And so I started my own restaurant. So that was 2010, February 2010, and it was a very traditional business, right? It was my first business, and it was kind of interesting. It was definitely something I wouldn't do again, just because it's so traditional that I think there are different and better ways of doing the same thing and providing the same value. But today, I kind of have two main businesses. I've got a digital media business and a food business, and I get a chance to have cool conversations, which is kind of very different from working in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I've worked numerous jobs over the years, everything from, I always tell people, I think my worst job was like a maintenance worker at a summer camp. I used to drive a tractor around and like clean bathrooms and stuff, to, working as a pastry chef in a bakery.
Cool.
So I think a lot of people don't realize that, you can go to college and get a degree and end up doing something completely different from what you went to school for. They get stuck in living this I guess, story in a sense that was passed down to us of, oh, you're supposed to get to college and get a degree, and that's what you do for 30 or 40 years, and that's your life. So where was it for you where, you found that you didn't really have to fit into the mold?
I this well, going back and when I think about it, I was always the guy that just didn't listen to anyone, right? I was this problem kid. I just didn't fit in school. Actually, I didn't. It's not that I didn't fit in school. I was just, I was that kid in school that my parents were there every Saturday, just because I would have done something in the week. But I was the only guy. I was the only guy in that played sport, but that was in the debate and the elocution and then the quiz teams, and the only guy in the doing the, I suppose, that side of things in the sports team. So I was always sort of a disruptor. And I don't know, I always had that in me. So I don't think there was a light bulb moment as such. I just think that I was always, but the funny thing is that I would not disrupt if there was no connection. So I would only disrupt over connection, whether it was people, ideas, whatever it might be. I was only comfortable being that disruptor or breaking the status quo if I could connect with other people in some way or the other. So, yeah, man, I don't know whether it was a light bulb moment. I just know that I was always the guy that wanted to stand out in some way and try and sort of put a different spin on things.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's exactly what you've been doing in your business. Is you're putting together I guess a service, right, that cooks food for people, but more specifically for entrepreneurs and the people that are more healthy conscious. Is that right?
Yeah, we kind of do. We see ourselves as I suppose the Uber for chefing, and we have chefs that plug in from one end, and we have high performing individuals that plug into the other end, and what we do is we give chefs a work-life balance, which is really unheard of in the industry because chefs work long hours. And what we do for high-performing individuals who know they're supposed to eat right is, we remove the worry of sometimes even shopping, but shopping and cooking and what to eat and what you're going to get out of it. We remove all that, and so they can focus on doing what they focus on, and as part of that as well, with every meal we cook here in Australia, we feed a child or an old person in need in a third world country. So we're trying to create all these different connections, and there's no one way to skin a cat, so you can always create new ones.
Yeah, I think that's really cool what you're doing there. And it sounds like, it's not just you're putting a service out into the world, but you're also trying to make an impact in the world and in the lives of others through food. And that's a really cool way to go about doing it. I think my curiosity probably lies in how do you go from an idea and just having this idea in your head to making this a reality? Because, as you and I both know, companies like Uber and Facebook, at one point, all started with some guy on his computer, writing up a plan. And how do you take that plan and build that into something where, it sounds like you've got a ton of chefs and a ton of people working with you. How do you grow that?
You mind map the shit out of it. Is the short answer. The long answer is one step at a time, really. All you can do is tackle the next issue, or you just get onto the next step. I mean, and sometimes you don't even know what the next step is going to be. So you just kind of keep chipping away until you realize that you're in a position that's quite different from when you started. You don't look at the project as this big thing that you need to do, and you've got all these other things that you need to just do the next step. And somehow it all just comes together, man.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I found is that you really just have to keep hustling and keep working. And one day you kind of turn around and look back and, hey, look, you've got a business. And, maybe a few years later you turn around and, hey, look, you've got 3 businesses, and it just keeps going. And it's so great to hear that, because I want the listeners and everyone watching in to realize that there's no secret, no magic recipe for this. I mean, other than hard work, I feel like.
Well, there's an illusion of hard work as well. In my opinion, like I feel that somehow we kind of go out of our way not to work more on our strengths, and I think that's something that we should be doing more. Like, I know for a fact that I'm not a good nurturer. I couldn't really care less. I'm not a good nurturer. I'm a good people person initially, but if someone's going through some sort of, I can only give enough good feeling around it. Like, I'm not that kind of person. So I know that I need someone in my team that can do that, because I know that it's important. And again, it's not something that, not something that I need, because for me, when I get emotional, I just shut down, right? It's just me as a person. But I know how different people want different things. I'm not the best, I'm not good with minutia, so I can create stuff. I'm like a pig in shit when it comes to creation. But when it comes to, looking at the minute details, I'm not good. But I know that that's important, so I need people on board to do that. And I don't know whether, when we say hard work, whether we are kind of going, hey, let's work on our weaknesses and really struggle like a hamster on a wheel, and just kind of go, let's just work really hard and get over and make our weaknesses our strengths. And I don't know whether that's the way to do it, but I just think just getting stronger at your strengths is probably the way to do it. And I don't know whether that's hard work, because you're enjoying yourself while you're doing it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I enjoy a lot of what I do, and it's a interesting journey to look back on and see how far it's been, just over the last year and over the last month. I'm curious to hear, were there any, big obstacles that stuck out for you just in the last couple of years in building these businesses, where, other people might run into similar obstacles, or, like, what was one of the hardest things that you faced in becoming a successful business owner?
Oh yeah, man. We all have those. In fact, you asked me the question, my left arm, the hair on my left arm just like stood, because, this is the thing. I think the biggest quality that an entrepreneur should have, and again, entrepreneur is another word that's just really misused, I suppose, but it is adaptability. Just being adaptable to situations. So if I go back 2.5 years, the restaurant that I spoke about, we did service on a Saturday night, and on a Sunday the locks were changed and we didn't have a restaurant anymore. So going from having it was one of the things that I could either go down the path of fighting it, or turning it around and doing something entirely different. And the period between that point, the 25th of May, to the point where I suppose I started doing well, which took over, I want to say, at least a year, where there were people knocking on the door to give us eviction notices, to having I suppose someone trying to take the car away, and all that kind of stuff in between. You've got to have really thick skin for this kind of work. Like, you've got to be just, I don't know, like, what's the worst that can happen sort of attitude, and keep plugging away, because there are some tough times if this is the path you want to be on. But it's also very, very, very exciting.
I love this episode so far, and I want to take a brief moment to talk about improving yourself each day. I know you are a huge fan of living life on your own terms, but if there's one thing I've learned in my journey, we need to constantly grow and look to others who have been in our shoes, which is why I've partnered up with Audible to give you one free download of your choice from over 180,000 books. Start your free 30-day trial by visiting yearofpurpose.com/audible. Now back to the show. Yeah, and I can't imagine what that's like to come in and have the doors be locked and your key doesn't unlock it. I mean, I've been in a in a position where I walked into work one day and got called into the conference room and got handed a pink slip and said, your job isn't going to be here after today. So I know what it's like to be shut down very quickly.
Yep.
But it sounds like there were a lot of other factors involved, perhaps some financial things and a lot of decisions that had to be made for going forward. But it also seems like you're one of those guys who just kind of rolls with the punches and you just say, all right, well, that's what we have, and let's make another decision and do something else now.
You've got to be, man. You really, really got to be, because going out and getting a job or being fired from the job, or a job, I think, in my opinion, is easy. Like I got a job in a restaurant 3 days. So on Wednesday I had a job. So Sunday the locks were changed. Wednesday I had a job. I did the interview on Tuesday. Wednesday was my first day. But it was such a crazy time to work for someone else that I think I was losing more of my soul in that time. And I had I think it was 5.5 months where I had, 4 different jobs, because I just couldn't do it. It wasn't my thing. I reckon you got to roll with the punches. And the longer you feel sorry for yourself, and again, there's a place for that, the longer it takes. Just the truth.
Yeah. And I guess, you probably don't want to stay in that place too long. But at the same time, everybody's going to deal with it differently. So you left that full-time job, right? So after that, you did leave that job.
Yeah, I wasn't there for long, man. I had, like I said, I had 4 different jobs in those 5 months, and then I had the uncomfortable conversation with my wife saying, "Hey, this full-time gig this job is just not working, or having this kind of jobs and working for someone is just not working. We kind of need to I need to work on a project, and if I don't start getting income in by we set a deadline, then I would go back to finding a job." And it's something funny really happens when you do that, because you suddenly start being very, very resourceful. And I suppose that was a really good learning curve.
Oh yeah, I think that a lot of people have this false idea that, if your bank account hits 0, that you just die, like that it's game over. And I think that you're absolutely right. You start becoming resourceful and you find a way. And even in some of the books I've read, more just about sales and marketing, they say that, people will find the money, right? Like if someone passes away in the family and you have to be able to afford a funeral, you're going to make sure that they get buried in the ground at the end of the day. Like that money has to come from somewhere. Now, I don't wish that upon anyone, but the point is that you will figure out a way to make it happen if it's something that you either need to do or you desire that much.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem with entrepreneurs, and I seriously have this big grievance that entrepreneurship is being just used as this new catchphrase to sound cool. Is that we are not ready to be in that position where we do the 1% that someone else wouldn't do, and I think it's that getting to that point where it's not about wanting, but it's about needing. That is the difference, my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. So how do you come about making a business where you can pair up the thing that you're the most passionate with, along with something that really makes a difference in the world? Because so many people have all of these skills, but they don't realize that they can turn the thing that they love into, I wouldn't call it a job, because a job implies that you probably hate it. But I mean, how do you make something out of that and truly make a difference in the world?
See, hey, I think there are lots of ways to make a difference in the world, and it's funny you asked me this question today. It's funny we have this conversation today out of all the days, because I've seen a lot of stuff. I come from India, right? So it's not. we're used to seeing poverty around us, but you don't realize the impact until you're removed from the situation and you go back and see it again. This morning, I was just pulling up in the parking lot in the office like the office here, and for whatever reason, I saw this homeless guy, which is not it's not as common in Australia as it is I suppose in the States. I was shocked actually when I went to downtown LA to see the difference. Right, it's not. But I saw this homeless guy. And I don't know what happened to me, man. Like I'm struggling from the emotion that I went through, but I couldn't stop crying. And I mean, I've seen this before. I don't know what was different. I really don't. But but it was just one of those weird experiences that I was just so grateful for being in the position that I was in. And I went and bought. I went. There was a bakery. There's a bakery downstairs, and I just went and bought like a ham and cheese croissant and gave it to the guy. And he's like, "No, I have some milk in my bag." And I said, "No, dude, I just bought it for you, and it's really tasty. It's just baked from the bakery, so you know." But it's not about this massive change on the planet. Like, help your grandmother. That it can start there. Like, it's not about. I don't know, like it's not about changing the world and plastering your name on stuff. It's just about like just do whatever it is that you need to do to make anyone's life easier. And that could be your business could be doing that for someone. Like if your business is taking someone and giving them a life that they want on purpose, then you're making a difference. It doesn't necessarily have to, be in a third world country. It doesn't necessarily have to be rags to riches. So the story doesn't that's just the stories that the media likes, but that's not it at all. For me it was just like we have hunger and obesity on the same planet. That's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And we're trying to go to other planets and inhabit that, but we still have these fundamental issues that are plaguing us. And when I say plaguing, it's not like it's the end of the world. We'll find a way to balance it out. But I wanted to make a difference because I saw both sides of the story. So I wanted to find a way to do that.
Yeah, and I really like that you were able to take a problem that was right in front of you, clear as day, and not necessarily a problem, but perhaps ease someone else's pain right in front of you, as opposed to passing it by. Unfortunately for me, I live in Baltimore in Maryland, in USA, and there's homelessness everywhere. There are riots, as I'm sure you've probably seen on the news, and there's a lot of major issues here at home. So I'm a huge fan of, let's fix home first. And in your words, as opposed to going to another planet, let's figure out the things that we still need to fix here before we move greater. So I really like that you brought it that way, because I was thinking, global, bigger mission. And I like that you brought it back down and made it very realistic in that, there are things right in front of us, grandma, parents, people sitting on the sidewalk in front of our office, that really need our help. And sometimes it's as easy as walking down the street to the bakery and taking 5 minutes out of your day.
Yeah, man. Like if you have a nephew or a niece that you haven't spent time with lately, make it a point to have like a meal with them. Like trust me, that's going to make a massive difference to their lives, because you connect with them on a different level. It's something that we take for granted. I think we don't realize how much we connect with people, and the only reason we know this is because when we did our sharing sessions in India, we realized that the kids just wanted to, touch our skin. The food was great, but it wasn't about the food at all. It was a connection that humans have with each other that we take for granted in this world. I think in this first world basis, I think.
Yeah. So you've got an amazing background. I mean, you've got this tech background, you've got a psychology background, you've got this MBA, you've got an amazing food business. Where do you see yourself going, 5 years from now? I mean, easily a year and a half, 2 years ago, you were in the spot where you were locked out of your own place. Where could it go from here? And what do you want to see happen?
Well, for me, I want to be able to allow possibilities or give people the ideas that they probably didn't get themselves. So how do you shake up as many industries as possible? And I think that for me is something that really means a lot, because we kind of get used to doing something in a certain way, and we do that over and over again, and we don't really introspect, and we land up giving people that look up to us stupid answers like, because I said so, because that's the way we've always done that. And I think that needs to change. So if I can change a bunch of people through this path and allow them to think a bit differently, that would be super cool.
That would be really cool. So this has been a great talk, and I'd love to round it out just with a little bit of, we've talked about how to make an impact outwards. If you had one piece of advice as far as, allowing yourself to grow as a person and improving and becoming better, what would that be for everybody listening in? I know I'm throwing all the hard questions your way.
No, man. Meditate for 10 minutes every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
This is funny because I actually, to be honest, in terms of a ritual, September last year was when I kind of went, wait a minute, what are all the successful people doing, right? And that's when I kind of changed and started waking up really early in the morning and having this morning rituals. My launch sequence, as I call it, and that's made a massive difference to my life. But I think just sitting in silence for 10 minutes really somehow helps. And there's no way to explain it in words, because there's really no way to do it. It's just you got to experience it to know the impact that it does have. But
yeah.
Yes, that's, yeah.
It's really cool to hear you say that. So I actually had this book here on my desk, and it's called The Miracle Morning. It's by Hal Elrod, and it's about the tagline is the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. And one of the first things that he recommends in there is taking about 10 minutes or so of silence in the morning when you get up, which to me was like crazy at first, because I'm like, it's silence, like I've been in silence the last 6 or 7 hours, I've been asleep, like what do you mean I need to sit here and do absolutely nothing? And so I'm working towards doing that more consistently, and it's cool to hear that you're doing that as well, and you've been doing that for quite some time now. And I guess it's one of those things that we just have to recommend to people, and you won't really know until you try it.
No, I think as part of my research, I actually read Hal Elrod's book. Wow. And the two biggest things that I got out of that was that the 10 minutes of silence and the 10 minutes journaling that you do. And if you do just those two things, I guarantee you 6 months from now, you're going to look back and go, whoa, I should have started this a long time ago.
Very cool. So, well, thank you so much for that recommendation. And I guess I can back that up because I got a book here now and I'm working on this too. So it's great to hear that somebody else is doing that. It's been really cool to talk to you. I'd love for you to share, your website and your podcast and places where people can check out what's going on with you and how they can keep track of everything.
Yeah, man, it's very difficult to keep track because I don't keep track myself. But Bond Appetit or .com is the food podcast. It actually goes out. It used to go out 3 times a week, but now it's just once a week. And there are some cool people coming up on the show. Actually, going to have James Schramko. If no one knows about him, he's actually an internet marketer that surfs every day. So you got to listen to his story on how he makes a hard life easy, and does it really well. So yeah, that's one of my podcasts. The other one is Podcast Revolution. So wearepodcast.com is another space to find me. But on Twitter at Ronsley, Facebook.com/Ronsley. Yeah, connect, say hello. Love to help, or if you have a question, send it my way. I'm happy to help.
That's awesome. So thanks so much for spending some time with me. It's for everybody listening in. It's actually 11:30 at night here right now, but it's like, what, 1:30 in the afternoon the next day for you?
Yeah, man. But thank you so much for being accommodating with my schedule. I mean, thanks for being up so late and having me on your show. It's been awesome to have this chat.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'd love to stay in touch, so I'll definitely be reaching out to you online, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, Stefan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Year of Purpose podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a rating and review if you loved this episode. Now, are you ready to live life on your own terms? Head on over to www.yearofpurpose.com right now for the tools, resources, and the roadmap to living a life rescripted. And tune in next week for another episode of the Year of Purpose.